Oh, didn't see you there. Hello and welcome to week 4 of the Brit Iron podcast fantasy show. I'm your host James, and joining me today is Matthew and Sam, as always. And we've got another exciting episode for you lined up today. Start with which we're gonna kick it off with the Sleeper Listener League, of which we've had very small success so far.
I think we might, if we have another week like this, we might have to retire just the entire fantasy portion of the Brit Iron, because how the hell can people listen to us for fantasy advice when we can't even win a week?
Yeah, I mean, we're still the team who's had the most points scored against us on a positive spin. So there is that, and we're not the lowest scoring team either in the league. We're not last either. We're actually 11th out of 12, so big up us.
Come on.
But I mean, yeah, there's a lot of road ahead of us, so still a lot of potential out of this team.
We've been saying that for 3 weeks now. I think what we can take from it is if we go 0-4, just do the opposite of what we do. If we like a player, bench them.
Yeah.
So, either way, just take it as you will. But yeah, as James said, here's the league standings. It's not looking great. Down in 11th out of 12. But yeah, we've had a hard opening to this season. Most points against us. It's been rough, hasn't it, boys? It's not been what we expected so far, has it?
No, and some teams around the league have actually kind of done a lot better than we expected. I mean, we hammered Ralph for having a bad draft, and we off camera we were like, what's he done there? That's been some bold decisions made, and he scored a lot of points this week and won his matchup. So what do we know? He's sat at 2-1. He's got a good thing going. I would just like to point out, this is less on the fantasy side, but I believe it's one of the guys in the league, Sam Candler. Absolute shout out to you, mate, for some top trash talk in the league chat. I won't say exactly what we said.
We might have to censor parts of it, I think.
There are some expletives in there, but I will admit I was having a stroll through and it gave me a good giggle. So well done.
We love to see it. When
you're sat at 3-0, you can give some stick out, can't you? I think if we tried it, we laughed off the old league chat. So we do.
Yeah.
Exactly, but it's a long season. We're going to work our way back, and plenty of teams go 0-3, and they're still there in January, so let's not let our heads dip yet.
So here's the specifics of that loss, just to kind of show you what we were working with from this week, and kind of help you get a bit of understanding to what we're thinking when we're looking at moving the team forward for week 4. So we lost 106 to 119. Minshew let us down early, even though James Robinson putting up nearly 30 points. I thought it would balance out, but just not enough for us, unfortunately. Mixon again, disappointing for where we took him and what we'd expect. Same with Odell Beckham. Same with T.Y. Hilton. It's some of the big names that we need to show up. They're just not yet, and I think that's kind of our problem, mainly around this wide receiver point of they're just not putting up the numbers for us right now. Hayden Hurst got himself the touchdown. I think keep running with him. I think there is some upside there, especially part of this Falcons offense. So not too concerned about that. Just a bit of a slow week for him. Kenyon Drake bringing it back a bit closer to what we want, but still only less than 10 points. It's disappointing from what we'd hope is our running back too.
Yep.
David Montgomery, inconsistent as ever.
That's going to change.
Fingers crossed. We will get to that as we're putting the team in, sort of the specifics around him. Carson, new kicker. Missed his first kick of the week. Sod's law that. So, sorry for suggesting that one there, boys. But it's one miss on the season. We'll see where it goes from there. Bucks defense, bright point currently. Looking lively, putting up some points for us. So hopefully that continues. And then the typical fantasy thing of Jared Goff being on the bench, putting up about 20 points more than our starter.
Yep.
That would have won us the week. So it's a rough pretty typical fantasy week in the problems we've had and the reasons for the loss. So any other bits you guys want to add there and bits you saw from that this week, or?
I mean, just kind of going through our opponent's team. I quite like the Dalvin Cook had a big week, so I mean you're getting a lot of points there. Tom Brady had a good solid week, which I think is kind of what you can expect from Tom Brady going forward. So he's a guy out there that if you've picked up Tom Brady to be your fantasy guy throughout the season, I think you're going to be quite happy with him. He's not gonna put together a Patrick Mahomes week like Mahomes did this week, which is a 40-point. Actually won me a week in our dynasty. I had a 1% win chance at Monday evening. Woke up Tuesday morning and I'd won the week, so I was very happy with that.
Do you want to talk specifics of that win, or how
humble
many
brag.
players he had out?
I mean,
injured?
You're gonna humble brag about that. The
Yeah,
guy had
gonna say-
3 players injured.
Granted,
Started
he started 3 players that didn't actually play, which I think, to be fair, for him to put up 97 odd points with 3 players on his starting roster who didn't even play. It's quite impressive from him, but Patrick Mahomes came through clutch. I quite like the setup of the guy that we played this week. What was his name? Let me have a look. So this week, who was our opponent? Rohan Tipper. So a very solid team there. Marvin Jones obviously had a bit of a disappointing week, but I think Marvin Jones is very much one of those players who's going to be up and down. He'll have a couple of weeks where he'll go absolutely off, but you can probably guarantee him for 3 to 4 receptions and 50 yards a week. DK Metcalf is going to be a big point scorer all season. Kelsey had a good week. Godwin had a decent week. The touchdown kind of really helped him along there. So we were up against a solid team. I still am confident that as we kind of come up against some of the poorer teams in this league, that our record will even out. I think we've had quite a tricky start to the year.
Yeah, and I think it might continue into next week as well. I'm just having a look at the guy who we're playing next week, Mark R91. He scored the most points in week 3, and even though he did that, he also had Evan Ingram, Mark Ingram, Ronald Jones, to name a few. So week 4 might be tough for us still.
One positive note currently, looking at this here on the matchup screen, it's a 48% win chance for us. We're only actually 1 point back in the projected. Our team hasn't been living up to the projections. His evidently has. So we'll see. But I think before we get into too much of what we got in terms of our lineup and our matchup, I think compared to last week, it's a bit of a quiet waiver. So we're going to bring open the trending tab. There's a few names floating about. I think the majority of this waiver wire is wide receivers who had sort of breakout games, who put up a touchdown or 2, but you've only seen it once on the most part, or they're part of offenses you don't really want to be a part of. So I think for me, there's not really any moves I'm actually looking to make currently. Anything that's jumping out to you guys? Anyone you want to look at? Or is it keep it as it is, don't panic, don't make any odd changes, see where we're at?
Yeah. For me this week, there's a few players to watch going forward, but nothing I want to change this week. I'm happy with what we got, and I think we put ourselves in the best position to win with the team we have now. I think it would be silly to make any waiver wire transactions at this point.
The only player that I would like to mention who I'm seeing, and I'm not necessarily saying this from I think we should pick him up. I think it's just I'd quite like to mention him from a general waiver wire perspective. Is I'm seeing Mo Ali Cox sat on the waiver wire, and I think he is a guy that, I mean, even after putting up 2 back-to-back good weeks, he's going relatively under the radar, and you can probably pick him up relatively cheap. Now, Phillip Rivers, when he connects with a tight end, has proven in the past with Antonio Gates and even to an extent Hunter Henry that he likes to throw to the tight end, and specifically he likes to throw touchdowns to a tight end. And when you've got a guy as big-bodied and athletic as Mo Ali Cox, pair him with a guy who likes throwing touchdowns to the tight end, that means fantasy points. So he's a guy that if we didn't have Hayden Hurst, who I think is probably putting himself in that position as a locked and loaded starter week in, week out at this point, just because of the targets that he gets in that offense, then Mo Ali Cox to me is a very, very streamable option, as is Jimmy Graham, who sat 1 spot behind him on the trending tab.
And for both of those, well, just to touch on it, Mo Ali Cox has got 9% ownership across all leagues, and Jimmy Graham's got 8% ownership across all leagues.
They're both available. If you're struggling at tight end, go and do that. Go and pick them up. And to be honest, Mo Ali Cox especially, he's got Chicago this week. Defense hasn't looked great, so could be an opportunity for a good week. Having said that, I always give tips like this. He'll probably have 1 reception for no yards, or
I think just two names that step out, maybe one to watch across the season, one that could have value this week. You've got Carlos Hyde, the Seahawks. He could come in. I think Carson, that almost alligator death roll it's being called from one of the Cowboys, just isn't he? It should be fine, but it might not be in for this week. If he misses time, Carlos Hyde, he can get a job done in the NFL. We saw it all last year. Keep an eye on that. That could be a great addition just for this week, but you're not dropping too much fab. You're not really trying to invest a lot in that because most likely it's a 1 week thing if you really need a bit of running back depth. The other name I want to watch on the season is Brian Hill of the Falcons. It was a good week just now. I'm not overreacting to it saying jump it and pick him up. I'm saying they're obviously limiting Gurley a little bit. They don't want to burn him out. So I think it's a name to watch. If he keeps being able to snag touchdowns here and there, put up some yardage, could get some flex value. And I mean, if he's already looking good, especially if Gurley does start to develop even a little bit of an injury, you could suddenly see Gurley getting 40% of when they really need him on the field, the workload going to Brian Hill. So just keep an eye on him throughout the season. I think there's one name that stands out there for me. So we're keeping things the same then, so it should make it a little bit easier setting our lineup. So we'll jump straight into that over on the My Team tab. First, quarterback, Minshew or Goff?
Actually, yeah.
No.
I'm going Goff here against the Giants as they don't seem to have a defense.
Ah, yes, Goff, yeah, Goff.
Banged up Giants, it's got to be Goff.
I think,
get Goff in there.
That's quite a simple one. I mean, it means Minshew's probably going to have a bounce-back game now. Just how it seems to work for us, but who knows? We're gonna roll with Goff, try and stick with that. Then at our running back spots, our options here, we've obviously got Joe Mixon, James Robinson, Kenyon Drake, David Montgomery, and Joshua Kelly down the bench, as well as Devonta Freeman as well. Who are sort of ones we want to lock in early as we've definitely got to start them. I think for me, James Robinson is getting to that point that I want him locked in. Yeah. Got to keep him there. Mixon and Drake, it's a similar conversation. They're going to put up numbers at some point, and I don't want to be the guy that misses it because we thought let's bench him and try and be clever.
With Drake and Mixon, I feel like the opportunity's there. For the most part, the yardage is there for both of them. The thing they're missing is the touchdowns.
Yep.
And that, for players of this caliber, for players like Joe Mixon who've just got paid, that is coming. And this is a mistake a lot of fantasy players will make in general, is they're willing to bail on players far too early. So you will have seen last year when Joe Mixon had a rough start to the season, people will have bailed on him. They will have traded him low because they just want out. Yeah. They think, I'm not going to get anything from him this season. And they trade him at week 6 before the deadline. And then the back half of the season, the guys who traded for him have got a league-winning player because he's suddenly all the touchdowns then come. So they are coming at some point. You're not going to win every week. You might have a stretch of 3 weeks. The talent, the opportunity, everything is there. You're just waiting for the touchdowns. I actually think now David Montgomery is also a must start, purely because with Tariq Cohen out, he is that backfield. Now, yes, he's been inconsistent, but even with Tariq Cohen on the field and game scripts that don't necessarily suit running the ball a lot, he's still averaging like 15 odd carries a game, sometimes more. With Cohen gone, that's only going to go up. So I think just for opportunity's sake, he has to be there.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. I think there's a lot of upside now to Montgomery. He can actually just get running with the ball, get some consistent carries, work himself into games. So I think keeping pretty much the running back spots as they are then. Yeah. All playing at 6 p.m, so it doesn't matter where I put them, flex or RB1 or 2. So keeping those 4 locked in. Then at receiver, Odell Beckham Jr. against the Cowboys defense. Got to keep him in. There's a lot of potential here. They've had some big scoring games already, the Cowboys. If they're pushed and the Browns have to move away a little bit from running it and try and throw occasionally, we've already seen it. Baker is just going to stare Beckham down. So got to keep him in. T.Y. Hilton is another similar one. Big name. But I'm not convinced at this point. Our options essentially for this wide receiver spot are T.Y. Hilton, Brandon Cooks, Darius Slayton. I think Slayton is one I'm crossing off. Yeah. Not confident in that. And
This is not the week for Slayton. No. This is not
Aaron
the week.
Donald is going to be just chasing. He's going to be causing nightmares, so don't want to go him.
And it's a very good secondary that the Rams have got there. It's a very strong secondary.
So I'm actually more split than I feel like I should be on this with looking at Brandon Cooks, but he's been just as inconsistent as T.Y. Hilton. But I'm thinking against the Vikings, they've been giving up a lot of yards, a lot of touchdowns. Could there be anything there, or is this one where we just stick to the guy we've put the draft capital in and hope this is his week?
You know what? I said it was coming for T.Y. Hilton. I still think it is, but I believe on this week, Brandon Cooks should be the play against that Vikings defense. I just prefer that matchup a little bit more personally. So I would err on the side of Cooks over Hilton.
I'm happy to defer to James's decision here, just because I think this for me, I put both of these players in the same bracket of both incredibly talented players, both on average to good teams, both with matchups that have the potential to be really positive game scripts for them. But it could be a coin flip. I think this one, yardage wise and targets wise, they could be very similar. Yeah. It's which one is going to go for the touchdown, and at that point, I think you're guessing. And I'd probably err with James just on the Vikings. I think I prefer the Vikings matchup.
I think my one thing I'm mainly watching on this, because obviously I got Cooks as well over on Dynasty, is if we see his name on an injury report at all, you flip it back. Even if it's just the smallest questionable thing of he will play, but he's just not working out fully.
100% agree with you there.
So we'll start this with Cooks in, but obviously we're going to be keeping an eye on the Twitter feeds, keeping an eye on the news coming out of the Texans to see what comes there. Then obviously keeping the kicker in, keeping the Bucks in. And this currently is our locked in lineup for week 4 then. So looking at our matchup, we'll see if that's moved things. 2 points difference in it. I think their team will run you through it quickly, sort of position by position, one against the other. We've got Goff, he's got Russell Wilson. That's terrifying. Russ is on a tear right now. So we'll
MVP.
See how that goes. Mixon and then Chubb on the other side. Also a bit concerning, but what we've got to hope here is that the Browns find themselves in the right kind of game script where they just seem to give it all to Kareem Hunt. So we'll see how that swings. Eckler, James Robinson. I'm happy having James Robinson against Eckler here because Chargers against the Bucks and we're mean against the run, so I'm happy with that. Beckham against Amari Cooper, but he's got them stacked, Amari Cooper and Gallup, which is bold. We'll have to see which one of them has the big game. Because obviously we've got Beckham and Cooks. It's all kind of 4 similar guys there that you're looking for the big plays, the touchdown upside. Yep. Hurst against Evan Ingram. I'm happy with where we're at.
I'm happy with Hurst.
Yeah, happy with Hurst in that matchup.
Yeah, definitely.
Bit nervous of this Giants offense. Kenyon Drake on one side for us, Melvin Ingram for the Ravens. Against the Redskins, good front 7. Hopefully Kenyon Drake can step it up, find the end zone for us this week. And then Montgomery and Rojo as the 2 last flex options. That's a complete, and it could go either way with them too as well. So I think quietly, although this guy's 3-0, scored way more points than us currently, I don't think we're out this one at all, and I think this could be the week it turns around. Any thoughts jumping out from there for you guys?
No, I think at this point, this is one of those ones where we shouldn't overthink it. We've set our lineup. As you say, if Brandon Cooks pops up on the injury report, then we change things, but I would leave it at that.
Yeah, once again, I'm confident going into the week. I think you've got to be confident, set your lineup. So let's get it. Let's get this win finally. Go get the first win of the season. Exciting times, and that moves us very nicely onto the My Guy section for the week, which I believe, Matt, we're sticking with the same criteria as before, correct?
Yep. So exact same. Can't be at the top 12 on their position in fantasy scoring, half PPR that is. So it's been interesting so far. It's been a bit back and forth. This week just gone, Sam took DJ Moore, James took Joshua Kelly, and I took Jerick McKinnon. DJ Moore, wide receiver 50, not what Sam was hoping for. I think it's safe to say.
Not at all.
Joshua Kelly, bit of regression there. RB 50. He seemed like he was breaking out well, but I think you're going to get this in rookie seasons. Sort of a lot of ups and downs. So tie for them 2 there, and then McKinnon coming in as the RB 14. Got a bit of a scare from Wilson getting a lot of work there as well, but still got me the points at the end, so that's all good. So I claim the point on the week with James and Sam drawing. We're calling it quits on that. So no one gets their negative point. They both just get the 0. So that means on the season, currently, me and Sam tied on 1. James on -1, just that little bit behind. But that could all flip in a week.
Yep.
So,
it will.
Moving into this week. James, as you asked, I'm going to give you the first shot. Who is your guy? Get him locked in before me and Sam could maybe nick him from you. Who's your guy for this week?
Well, I'm sticking on a very similar theme to as I did last week, which didn't quite pay off for me. But I believe this week it will come true, and that is I'm going for Kenyon Drake of the Arizona Cardinals for this week. RB24 on the season so far in half-point PPR, and the reason that he's so similar to Joshua Kelly, the pick from last week, is that he's playing against the Carolina Panthers. Now, we know that their run defense is pretty poor so far this season. They've allowed 7 rushing touchdowns so far and allowed an average of 124 yards per game. And you know what? No team has allowed more fantasy points to running backs since last season. And only the Raiders have given up more points to the position in 2020. Okay. So they really are there for the taking. I think last week Joshua Kelly, like you said, rookie maybe. One of those weeks, I believe. So yeah, running backs really do excel against this defense, whereas they haven't been as hot against other teams. I think every single player who scored a touchdown against the Panthers this season hasn't scored a touchdown against any other team, which is a bit of a weird stat. Bearing in mind it's Josh Jacobs, Fournette, and a few other names in there as well. So it's big names doing it. Now, one concern you might have with this pick is Chase Edmonds. But Kenyon Drake is getting an average of 75% of the running back touches in that backfield, which is a considerable amount.
That's a workhorse level.
Yeah.
Exactly. And he's also on average getting 68% of offensive snaps against Edmonds' 34%. So he's getting double the snap count of Edmonds. So you're right. He is a workhorse. So when you pair that in with playing this Panthers defense, who are very poor against the run, this should be the game where I expect Kenyon Drake to get his season back on track and prove his worth as potentially running back 1 on the week.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
That pick. Sam, where are you going with this?
Right,
then?
okay. I think you guys are going to have a go at me here for taking the low-hanging fruit again.
Oh, you're not again.
So
again.
my guy, he's just outside of the top 12 on the season, but
he's number 13. Let me guess.
Yeah, he is number 13.
Oh my god!
But
wow.
where this comes from is he is a boom or bust guy. So he either has just a bad week and he'll be buried in the wide receiver 3 or 4 because the team won't play well and he's very reliant on all sorts of other things around him, or he booms. And I think this is a great week for him to boom. And I'm taking Odell Beckham Jr. I think this is a guy that a lot of people have been burnt a lot in the last 3 years with Odell Beckham Jr. He's got this ether around him that everyone thinks he's like a wide receiver 1, and he's actually not at this point in fantasy. He shows up 4 out of 15 fantasy weeks, and he blows up and he wins you the week, and the rest of the time he's having a strop, or he's not getting the targets, or he's dropping balls, and he's not as consistent as he was 3 or 4 years ago. Now, I really like this matchup just because playing Dallas, that is a bad defense. And if they can establish the run, that's going to really open up the deep ball, I think. And Odell Beckham is the deep target here. So I don't envisage Odell Beckham having a lot of targets. I think this could be a less than 6 or 7 target game and maybe a less than 3 or 4 receptions. But I think that could be 2 huge receptions for 2 touchdowns. So I think I'm taking him because I think he's got wide receiver 1 upside, but I'm very aware that he's also got wide receiver 40 downside.
Okay. I like that pick. And also,
we'll let it ride.
Just a touch. He's not low hanging fruit. I've just double checked. He's actually 38 on the season.
Oh, is he? I thought he was 13 in half PPR. Maybe that was just last week.
Probably last week in the season, 38.
Right,
so
okay, I must have been looking at the same thing.
Not a low-hanging fruit there. So
but I think this is the week that Odell Beckham Jr. does boom. I think he's got the right matchup. As long as they stick to their game plan, and as long as Baker doesn't crumble, which he might, Odell Beckham, this is a good week for him.
I like it.
So this is interesting now. So you've obviously both gone players in our sleeper team as your guys.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that.
This, I can guarantee, this is not planned. This is going to survive. So we should be having a great week this week. I've gone for David Montgomery, the Bears. We've touched on it a bit, but he's RB22 on the season at the moment, while sharing this backfield with Cohen. With Cohen out, he should get a lot of carries. He'd be able to build the momentum. He's been averaging 13 to 16 carries while sharing the backfield, that sort of region. So hopefully we're going to see an upturn in that. see him getting up near that 20 sort of number, really run himself into the game. And this is with Foles starting as well. Foles starting a game and Foles coming in for a comeback are not the same quarterback.
Yep.
So I think they're going to have to lean on the run. They can't expect Foles to go out there and do some magic. So hopefully they're going to lean on the run, hope the defense shows up, and come up with a big week. Hoping for some turnovers from Rivers as well, just to get him on the field a lot, and hope they try and just choke out this Colts team. So, if all of these come in, who knows? We could be having a great week coming up. Or this could just be us all seeing who can actually have a player inside the top 50 at their position. We'll see.
The thing that could be really big for Montgomery as well is with Cohen on the field, Cohen is more of the receiving back. And with Cohen gone, that automatically means, or theoretically, it should automatically mean a few more targets for Montgomery. Now, watching Montgomery, he's not the best receiving back in the league, but he's not incapable of doing it. And he has scored touchdowns out of the backfield, catching the ball. So that is just more opportunity to get him the ball and get him to the end zone. And like you said, with Foles coming in, if they get that ball inside of the 5-yard line, I fully expect that to be 3 handoffs to Montgomery. I don't expect them to dial up any clever plays. They're just going to want to score games and try and steal wins.
And you saw at the weekend, the second was Foles coming in, they started leading this comeback. Space opened up for Montgomery. I think teams know with Trubisky that you can just focus on shutting down the run.
Yeah.
And you're going to get opportunities still to make plays. Whereas I think with Foles, they changed how they were playing a bit. So hopefully that rolls on. But I think 3 good picks there. I think actually me and James going more towards the low-hanging fruit in a way. I mean,
I was going to say.
But I think they're all guys who have been letting their owners down this season compared to what you would have expected drafted them at. Who knows? Hopefully they will have great weeks, all in the top 12. We win our week in Sleeper. Happy days.
And we come back next week with our confidence in our own ability to give people fantasy tips and analyse fantasy, and revitalises the Brit Iron.
Exactly. But exciting times for the Brit Iron for sure. But unfortunately, I believe that is all we've got time for in today's episode. So as ever, be sure to head over to YouTube, go like, comment and subscribe on all our content over there. Also check us out on Twitter and Instagram. We're at the Brit Iron. Go get involved. We're starting little communities on both those platforms, which is really nice to see. So go get involved. And of course, just to plug it as well, we are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well now.
Yeah, go give us a listen.
Exactly.
Maybe drop a review.
5 stars.
That'd be lovely.
5 stars. 4 stars.
5.
Not 3 stars.
5.
Not 3 stars. 5 stars. 5 stars. 5.
5? But for now, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.